Hey, it's Deanna, and today we're going to talk about the top flight attendant requirements that airlines are looking for in candidates. Apart from being responsible for the safety of their passengers, flight attendants are required to be the face of the airlines. They'll need to smooth over any customer service issues, any problems they'll need to solve. As a flight attendant, you kind of have to be a MacGyver at 30,000 feet. So you're always there to fix everything, and you don't always have the tools that you need to do it. So airlines are looking for very specific requirements for their flight attendants. So let's dive into all the requirements. The first one we'll start with is age requirements. Okay, so I want to put this out there first. There is no maximum age, there's no retirement age for a flight attendant. You can be a flight attendant at any age. It's a great second career. However, there are starting ages that you need to meet. So some airlines are 18, some are 19, some are 20, some are 21, and even as high as 23. So you do need to have meet those age requirements, but any age in between, I mean, I'm talking about US airlines, international airlines could be a little different, but US airlines are my specialty. And airlines actually love to hire people that are mature and have a lot of life experience. Educational requirements. So the educational requirements are you need to have a high school diploma or a GED. That is an absolute requirement. However, a college education is preferred. So that will give you an edge if you do have a degree. It could give you an edge. Now, the reason I say that too is because when you go to flight attendant training, it is so hard. It is equivalent to a very difficult college level course with an added layer of trauma. I always say it, training is trauma. Training is difficult. You're getting brainwashed and you have to learn so much material in a very short period of time. And why I say you're getting brainwashed, it's because you need to react in an emergency situation without even thinking about it. So they're just really training your brain. So they're drilling you full of information so that in an emergency you can act quickly on your feet. You don't freeze and you know exactly what to do. Because a flight attendant's job could mean life or death. It's a very serious job. We're first responders as flight attendants. Previous work experience. Okay, this can be really important because some airlines, they even say you need to have 1 to 2 years of customer service. It really depends on the airline, but they want to see customer service in your background. The people that make great flight attendants are nurses, military personnel, obviously customer service representatives, hotel staff, baristas, even restaurant servers. Because, if you think about it, as a server in a restaurant or even a bartender, not only are you serving your customers, but you're also performing customer service. If there's something that goes wrong, who deals with it? You do. So think about what you do and how customer service is part of that. And police officers are amazing. I know some ex-police officers that are flight attendants. I always feel like so good when I fly with them because I feel safe. They're there, they're highly trained, even more trained than flight attendants. And they're there to take care of people and they're there to keep you safe and protected, which is super important in this day and age. Flight attendant skills. Okay, flight attendant skills. Flight attendants have a lot of skills. I'm just going to name a few. Teamwork, you need to work as a team. So as a flight attendant, you're part of a crew and that's your team. So you need to work well with others. You have to have exceptional communication. So especially in customer service issues and also any kind of emergency situations, you need to have really good communication skills where you can tell people what's going on. Hey, you do this, you grab this, I've got this is what happened. There's a lot of times you need to be effective at communicating. You need to have really good problem solving skills. Like I said about earlier, 30,000 feet in the air, you don't have everything you need. You're going to have some problems and you're going to need to solve them. And it's not always an easy thing to do. So if you have a good critical mind where you're really good at thinking about things and solving problems, that's excellent. And you need to be collaborative. So that kind of goes along with the teamwork there. So you want to be able to work well with others and collaborate and brainstorm together if you need something. You never know what you need. Okay, so they only gave you 5 meals and you needed six. So what are you going to do? Well, you got to brainstorm there and collaborate and figure it out and ask one of your other team members, one of the other flight attendants, if they can help if you can't figure it out on your own. Because sometimes people don't count their meals. You're up in the air and you're short. And then you have people that think, you're at a kitchen and they should have every single thing in the world that they need, and that's just not always the case. And we can only do what we can with what the tools we've been given. So if you're really good at collaborating and problem solving, that will serve you well as a flight attendant. Time management, that's another thing. If you are, I always say this, if you're on time, you're late. You need to be early. You have to be really good at managing your time. The flight takes off, this has to happen, this has to happen, that has to happen. Manage your time properly so that everything gets done before you land. Some flights are easier than others, but excellent time management skills. And you need to be able to be organized. You have to keep everything organized. That's another great skill. And customer service as well. I know I'm going to say this constantly, but customer service is a skill. So these are all great skills that you need to have as a flight attendant. Appearance requirements. So, don't be going into your flight attendant interview disheveled, because there are going to be flight attendant appearance requirements that you're going to be held to those standards all the time. You can get into trouble if you're not dressed properly, or your hair's not right, or the shoes you're wearing are wrong. They're very strict with that. And flight attendants wear a uniform, and it's called a uniform for a reason. And not all airlines allow tattoos. I mean, some allow them, some only allow visible ones. Some, will allow a tattoo if it's in a certain place, in a certain size, not bigger than a flight attendant badge. But airlines, a lot of airlines, they don't want to see them at all. So you have to have, be well groomed. You have to meet those appearance requirements, and you have to adhere to those strict standards that they set in place. And if you're not the kind of person, if you want to go out with purple hair, which, purple hair is cute, obviously, but, it's not a natural hair color, and you will need to have a natural hair color, meaning that hair color occurs in nature. You could be a brunette and dye your hair blonde, and that's fine. People have blonde hair, but most people don't have purple hair, aren't born with it. So those are some of the flight attendant requirements for appearance. Citizenship and work legality requirements. Okay, so if you're going to work for a U.S. airline, you need to be legal to work in the U.S. They're not going to sponsor somebody from another country to come in and work for that airline. Why would they, when they've got thousands and thousands of candidates right in their own yard? So that's not going to happen. You need to be legal to work in the US, and you also need to have a passport. So before you even begin the application process, go get your passport. You're going to need it anyway, and some airlines won't even allow you to apply before you even get that passport. Physical requirements. Airlines do have physical requirements that you do need to meet, because flight attendant is an extremely strenuous job. You're changing altitudes, you have all these crazy schedules. So I know I said earlier there is no age limit, and there's not, but you do need to be physically fit. You need to be able to stand for long periods of time. It could be 14 hours a day. You need to be able to kneel, bend, push, pull, lift things. Some airlines have vision and hearing requirements. And what that means is, okay, so there's vision requirements. So obviously I have glasses, but my vision corrected is 20/20. So with glasses, I have 20/20 vision. So you do need 20/20 vision, and that works. And you do need to pass a hearing test for not all airlines. You need to pass that hearing test because it's in an emergency situation. You need to be able to hear, obviously. So those are just some of the physical requirements that you need to possess as a flight attendant. Height and weight requirements. All right, so back in the day, they used to weigh you, and you had to be a certain height, and if you weren't the right weight, you got pulled off the trip, and then if you didn't lose weight, you got fired. That's not anymore. However, there still are certain height and weight requirements, but they're not like a certain amount of pounds or inches necessarily. What it is that you have to fit in the jump seat. So a jump seat is a flight attendant seat where there's a harness, and you have to fit in it, and the harness has to be able to close. You need to be able to fit down the aisle. If you can't fit down the aisle, I mean, you're not going to be able to do your job. It's tight, and it keeps getting tighter. They keep making aircrafts more cramped. And then the height, there's a reach test. So you have to be able to reach. For some airlines, it's 82 inches. Some airlines, it's 74. So you have to be able to reach. And then, also if you're working for a regional airline and you're too tall, you can't even walk down the aisle, that's another problem. So you want to go for an airline that has bigger aircraft. So you just have to be able to reach all the equipment, fit in your jump seat, and be able to perform your duties. So height and weight need to just be proportionate to that. Language requirements. So obviously you need to be fluent in English. and you need to know how to write and read and speak English, so that's important. And then there's other language positions. So some airlines, when they go to a destination, they have specific flight attendants that speak those languages, and that actually increases your chances. If you have a second language that is helpful, that will increase your chances of getting hired. You don't have to speak a second language, but it's definitely helpful. And what you do is you test for that language. You have to be able to speak it, read it, write it, just like you do with English. So you would be tested on that, and then you would get paid more because you have that requirement. So when you're working those flights and you're speaking the language, those are the flights that you get paid more. If you're speak a second language and you're just working a flight from Arizona to California, even though a lot of people will speak Spanish on that flight, you don't get paid extra for that. That's just a regular English speaking flight. Background check requirements. So this is super, super strict. They do a 10-year background check. They check your employment. They do FBI fingerprinting. So you got to make sure that you have a clean record. If you don't, before you start applying, start cleaning up your record, see if you can get anything expunged or off of there. DUIs can be a problem because Canada considers it a felony, and if you can't go to Canada, that's an issue. There is things you can do to get rid of that too. So, an exemption from Canada. That's a whole other video. Um, they do your fingerprinting. They do a lot of airlines do a credit check, and it's not, they don't check, like, if you have bad credits, doesn't mean you can't get hired, but they do check your credit. Drug and alcohol testing. So, no alcohol in your system, no drugs, obviously, not even medical marijuana. You can't even do that. The flight attendant is very strict. And even Alaska Airlines, they do nicotine testing. So you can't even have nicotine in your system. So these checks are very strict. And then, you also have to pass a check from the TSA to make sure that you're not a threat. If you're on a no-fly list, if you're on the no-fly list, you're not going to be a flight attendant. That's not. So there you have it, the top 10 flight attendant requirements that airlines are looking for. If you don't meet one of them, get to work on it. You can meet them. They're not really that hard. I mean, getting hired is hard. Absolutely. I mean, that is no walk in the park. But meeting the requirements isn't that hard. You can start working toward them today. And if you want help mastering the interview process, check out Future Flight Attendant. It's your total career center. We have everything there that you need. There is a job board. It tells you who's hiring, and that's updated daily. We have the course and coaching program where you get interview coaching and you learn how to master that whole interview process. And there's all kinds of great things there, resume service, anything you need to become a flight attendant. If you like what you saw, please hit the subscribe button and give us a like. Bye.